Well, hello there. My name is Mark Miles, and one of the things I absolutely love to do is help anyone that's looking to take a face-to-face course and certainly deliver it effectively in the online space. Okay, and so my background is all about training and assessment, learning and development, and helping people become the best presenters, facilitators, coaches, mentors, and ultimately trainers that they can be. So in today's video, I just want to share with you some tips, some ideas, and I think 10 key points on how you can really effectively take your face-to-face delivery and deliver it online if you are running workshops. And unfortunately, or fortunately, due to COVID and different things that have happened around the world, face-to-face training has really been pushed into the online space, and it's now I guess, a reality that all trainers need to face. That we have to be good at not just the design and development on the face-to-face, but also design development in the online space as well. And we have to be very good at the delivery in both spheres as well. And unfortunately, though, there's many times where people look at their workshop in a face-to-face context and they go, oh yeah, cool, we can just immediately put it on Zoom or Teams and we can just run it as we typically would. And certainly there are some things that you can sort of cross contaminate or bring over quite easily, but there are some things that you do need to factor in as well, such as what platform are you going to use? Are you going to use Zoom? Are you going to use Teams? Are you going to use WebEx? What are you going to use? And is your computer quick enough to handle it? Are other people's computers quick enough to handle it? And the activities that you would typically do in a face-to-face environment, are they doable in the online environment? Okay, and so there's a number of different things that you need to factor in if you are going to execute effectively an online workshop. And highly recommend that you grab a pen, get ready to write, because I want to go through some of those principles right now. Okay, so I'm going to speak to you as if it's the context of Zoom and you are delivering your content on Zoom, but you could also take these principles and apply them to any platform really. Okay, so number one, I really want to encourage you to define your outcomes. Define your outcomes very clearly with an online workshop, because we need to be even more specific with our audience up front and say, by going through this workshop, you will be able to do X, Y, Z, and you'll be able to achieve X, Y, Z. And I say define your outcomes because maybe the outcome that can be achieved in a face-to-face environment may be different to an online environment, because maybe the optimal interaction may just not be as possible. And I say as possible as in a face-to-face environment. So you may need to dial down or dial back your outcomes or your expectations, so to speak, because you just cannot do the practical component as much as if you were doing it in a face-to-face environment. Okay, so get very clear on your outcomes for your workshop and go, all right, cool. Is this achievable within this environment? And as part of that, you need to understand the emotions that people bring in to a workshop. And the more sensitive the content, the more you need to be, and when I said sensitive, I mean emotionally sensitive, the more you need to be aware of that and how people could be experiencing your workshop. Okay, in the face-to-face environment, it's much easier to see the emotions that play out. But in the online environment, if you are delivering a workshop that brings up stuff for people, you need to be very aware of that, and you need to be checking in with people to see if they're okay. You need to be very careful with your pre-framing of activities, and you need to be debriefing activities even more carefully. Okay, so second thing, you need to make engagement your priority. Okay, engagement is your priority. Engagement is your priority. With the online side of things, people get tired very quickly, and you need to be like keeping people on the edge of their toes or on the edge of their seat, so to speak, or the edge of their keyboard, so to speak, even more than you need to on a face-to-face environment, right? So you need to be encouraging people to type into the chat box. You need to be encouraging people to respond to you constantly throughout your workshop. And the moment you stop creating that engagement is the moment that people get bored or disengage from your workshop. It's critically important that you make engagement through your delivery so much part of what you do, right? So if that resonates with you, type yes in the chat box. If you can relate to that, type yes in the chat box. If you've ever experienced XYZ, type yes in the chat box. Whatever creative statements you want to use, get people actively involved in that chat box. Okay. So number one was define your outcomes. Number two, make engagement top priority for you. Number three, use breakout rooms regularly. Okay, use breakout rooms very regularly. And I imagine if you're delivering a face-to-face session, you've probably got lots of activities going on in your workshop. So what you can do is you can take some of those activities and put them into breakout rooms, and you could probably run them very similarly, but certainly there may be things that you may need to tweak and maybe change up a little bit, but start to actively use breakout rooms because they're one of the coolest tools that Zoom has available and Team has it available as well. But Zoom, you can use those breakout rooms. You can even go into the room and see what they're talking about, but use breakout rooms, get comfortable with them. And it's a really great modality to deliver content or do activities within, right? So you're going to present content, then you're going to give them activities, send them in for a breakout room, bring them back, debrief them, and you can make those breakout rooms as big as you want. So you can have one person, couple of people, three people, totally up to you, but bring in those breakout rooms in your delivery methods, all right? So next, number four is vary up how you deliver the content. What I mean by that is don't just be the presenter that stands there and shows slide after slide after slide after slide. It will get very boring very quickly. And don't just be the presenter that does discussion the entire time. Be the presenter that varies it up so often that people cannot predict how it's going to happen next. So you may be having class discussion, you may have trainer-led activities, you may have breakout rooms, you may show videos, you may have people sitting there and reading through things in silence. That's totally fine. But it's the variety that makes it interesting, engaging, and memorable. Next, number five, you want to limit the period of time that you spend doing any activity. So generally what I recommend to my clients and my cohorts and my learners is never ever do an activity for more than 8 or 13 minutes, because the average learner or audience member cannot concentrate for more than 13 minutes on any one thing. Even 8 minutes is stretching people, and it's really important that you work with people's attention span, not against it. Work with people's attention span, not against it, right? So ideally, you talk for 8 minutes, or you show a video for like 2 or 3 minutes, or you do an activity for 8 minutes, or whatever it may be, but never push people past that 8 or 13 minutes. And 13 minutes is the absolute max, all right? Like in the face-to-face environment, you've got a lot more time plasticity there, right? But in the online environment, people get bored so much quicker. Like when they're looking at a screen, their attention and their brain is struggling to hold on and conserve energy as they're focusing on you as you present. So make sure that you work with people's attention span, not against it. Okay. Next point. Number 7 is set the ground rules and set expectations. Because as we all know in the online environment, lots of things are unexpected, things can go wrong, and also people can play up, so to speak. So really make sure that you set ground rules at the beginning. Number 1 ground rule I love to set is we are all going to support and respect each other. Another one is give grace when it comes to spelling. Okay, because you don't want people feeling uncomfortable about making mistakes or typos, right? Next one is maybe keep yourselves on mute unless you are sharing and one person shares at a time. Another one is if you are going to turn off your camera, put a message in the chat box so that everybody knows you're okay. Okay, set up those ground rules and those expectations so everybody knows the, I guess, boundaries or the rules that we're all going to play by. All right, set expectations and set them early on. Okay, and don't just assume that everybody knows how to play respectfully. Is everybody may have a different definition of what they think would be appropriate in the online space. Okay. And for example, like you want to encourage people to eliminate distractions. You may want to say to people, look, if you've got things that may happen behind you, like people walking past or cats or dogs, whatever it may be, like encourage people to blur their background, all right? But just set up the expectations. It's so important because if you don't and you get some kind of behavior back, well, that's your fault because you didn't set expectations, okay? Next one. When you are getting people to do activities, please, please, please shut up. Please shut up. Because one of the principles of psychology and neurology is that the brain cannot focus on two things at the same time in terms of reading materials or thinking and listening to something else at the same time. And the I guess education principles, psychology principles, neurology principles have all shown us that we can really, in terms of the brain when it reads something, it basically is saying it out loud or saying it inside the mind because the place that it processes sound and the processes like reading, it's pretty much the same thing. So if we go into an activity and we need to read something or someone's like telling us to do something and we need to concentrate on reading something else, it's very hard for the person to actually operate or do what's required in the activity. So my recommendation is give the instructions or let people read the instructions, confirm that everyone's understood it, then put people into breakout rooms, shut up, and let them do the work. All right. Don't keep talking as people are doing activities because it's highly distracting. And neurologically, people just cannot do it. Okay. So next one that we've got there is limit your numbers if possible. Ideally, limit numbers because in the face-to-face environment, the bigger it is, the bigger the audience, the easier it is to deliver. Okay. And I just find that because you got varied personality styles, varied types of learners, and you can mix it up and have a great time the bigger your learners, right? The bigger the size of the audience. And the smaller it is, the harder it is sometimes when you're delivering face to face. Online, it's different. Online, the smaller the group, the easier it is. All right. The bigger the group, the harder it is to make sure that everyone's involved, the harder it is to make sure that everyone's receiving your content in the best possible way and everyone's keeping up. And it's a lot harder to see how your message is landing. So ideally with your group sizes, if you can limit them to around 12 learners or 12 audience members max, that's going to be a good optimal number. All right. Ideally around 6 to 12, but anything more than 12, it's going to be very, very, very hard to make a very effective workshop. Okay. Particularly people going into a very vulnerable space or you're touching on a topic that is quite intricate or complex, right? So ideally, if you can limit your numbers up to 6 or, if you've got to go above 6, maximum 12. All right. That's just what I've found from personal experience of delivering online countless times now. And next one that we've got, number 10, is you really, really, really want to operate by the rule of no one gets left behind. Okay, no one gets left behind. If you are setting a task or if you're setting an activity or if you're running your workshops and you're getting people to share, make sure that no one gets left behind. Okay, because as soon as somebody gets left behind, then you're going to set up a frame or you break the frame that everybody is in it together. All right. And when you're delivering a workshop online, it's a little bit different because it's more intimate. It's more of a group effort. It's more of an experience and an intimate experience for people. So you really want to operate by the philosophy that no one gets left behind and do anything and everything that you can to make sure that that rule or philosophy is lived by and delivered by when you're presenting your workshop or your training or your learning and development content that you may have, right? So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If you've got any questions, comments, or you want further consulting on how you could take your face-to-face content and take it into the online space and do that well and do it effectively, send me a message, hit me up. More than happy to help you out with that. It is a skill set in itself, and it's a skill set in itself to be able to design it and also deliver it well. All right. So thanks so much for watching the video, and I will see you on the next one. Hope you are well, and go out there and create the amazing ripple effect that you do as a great trainer that you are. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.